It
All
seems
right,
like I
guys.
got nothing to do.
Oh,
Hit
there
up
it is.
SimFBallCritic radio. I'm listening to one of the top podcasts, and they bringing you the real. And when they talk sports, it feels like you on the field. From real talk to real sports, from Madden to 2K. Just listen for one day, they'll grab you and you'll say it's on the net, man. Turn off your stereo, not music. I mess with SimFBallCritic radio.
All right, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Sim Standard Radio. I'm not sure what was going on in the beginning. It seemed like it took the intro a very long time to start, so we do apologize for that. But anyway, man, we're back, man. Episode 62. You know, we're getting closer and closer to that 100 mark, and we definitely want to give a shout out and a thanks to Jive Turkey. And we're ready to get it started, man. So let me do the quick announcement. You know, some guys said I should probably do this in the beginning, so we know we do take your feedback. So we just want to let you guys know, if you're listening online, you can definitely reach us if you want to call in at 516-453-9126. Again, 516-453-9126. We generally take calls in the second hour, so I know some of you guys have mentioned that you stay on the phone an extremely long time before you're answered. And I know you may be, familiar with our fellow game changers over at Game Changer Radio. They usually take the calls, throughout the show. We've elected to do it in the second half, but everything is up, up in the air. There's no script. It's a community show, so if you guys want us to change the format, we'll be happy to do that. Like I've said several times, I would love the show to get to the point to where it's a community-based show where you guys are providing the topics, and you guys in the community provided 3 of the 4 topics tonight. So we definitely appreciate that. But before we dive into that, let me go ahead and pass it to Smitty and see how Smitty is doing. What's going on, Smitty? How was your week, man?
It's pretty good, man. Pretty good. Ready to dive into this show here. Got some topics here, and like you said, the community definitely provided it, so we greatly appreciate that. And yeah, man, the countdown to Madden. You know what I'm saying? Looking forward to that Madden 16, no doubt, man. From everything that's going on, and also that was put out by the Hoop God. You know what I'm saying? We gonna find out some live 16 gameplay detail information tomorrow. So definitely looking forward to that. And yeah, ready to dive into these topics and definitely hear from the people.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to that as well, man. It's funny how things just fall in place, sometimes organically. I put out a video earlier talking about NBA Live, 16, using NBA Live 15 footage, and basically saying, do you think I pretty much said the game will be better than most people think. And, a lot of guys have agreed with it so far, extremely high amount of likes in comparison to dislikes. But, I hope guys understand why we say that. We always understand games are not finished products in terms of games like Live. They're still trying to catch up. Even Madden. We understand Madden is not a finished product, but you have to understand when we say stuff like, this game is good, or this game will do okay, or this game will be improving. That's exactly what it means. I think sometimes in the community, guys get a little too literal. When you give any type of credit to a game, sometimes there's individuals, not even really in our community, just guys that maybe you've never even spoke to before. It just seems like sometimes people are too critical, and they're not realizing that everybody knows the state in which these games are in. But I may cover that a little more in just a moment. We definitely don't want to stray too far away from the topics. We say it every week. We're getting better at it. We need to speed through our topics the best we can, and also limit the amount of time that we're talking and giving you guys responses to your questions. So we're going to give it a shot again tonight. We did pretty good last week, so we'll see how we do tonight. But basically, guys, the topics, first thing we're going to talk about is PGA Tour. By now, I believe Smitty and myself had hands-on experience with the game. I played it through EA Access. I believe Smitty actually has a copy of the game. So we'll give you some quick thoughts on our experiences. Like I said in my video, on my live stream, I am not a golfing, gamer. I'm very new to golfing. Even when I played Tiger, I'd pick it up for 5-10 minutes, fool around with it. That was about it. So I'm not really the guy that can break it down. I think Smitty has spent more time in that area, so he may have more to say. But we'll basically talk about the things that we liked, maybe things that we disliked, how it compares to Tiger Woods, and also address the community concerns. There's a lot of mixed opinions about the game. Some people are calling it trash. Some people are actually giving it a 5. So we'll talk about, is it fair to basically, judge the game, even though technically it is a first year product. So we'll go deeper into that. Then we want to talk about the community topics. So all of these rest of these topics were given by you guys. We appreciate that. You guys know who you are. The Madden NFL equipment and player models. And I see that I have a typo there. I have player modes. So let me change that. But we want to talk about equipment and player models. And, this was given to us by a guy in the community on Twitter. Apologize, I can't remember exactly who right now, but you know who you are. We want to discuss the lack of equipment authenticity in Madden. And we also want to talk about how important is it to you, how important is it to replicate a simulation sports game in terms of having authentic equipment, and should Madden and other sports games start scanning the full body? That should be an interesting topic. Here's another one from you guys. We want to talk about the ratings model Madden can take from NCAA. Another guy in the community mentioned to me that it seemed like NCAA did a better job with differentiating things like agility. With the example he gave was sometimes with average linebackers they would give them a lower agility or what have you to make them seem less athletic than a running back. And what Smitty and I would talk about is do we agree with that model? Should ratings be based on the player's position and not across the board, which y'all probably already know the answer to that. And then we'll talk about, is 100 speed for an offensive lineman the same as 100 speed for a wide receiver? And then last but not least, we want to talk about the possibility of 2K16 having real college teams. There's a rumor going on out there, man. If you guys have been following OS, a couple YouTubers, I know that kid Kuda is one of them, but he also gave credit to, I believe his name is Frizzy or Frizzy P. He posted a video basically confirming that 2K Sports has licenses with some college teams, and that was on the CLC website. Now, the question that we'll ask each other, and hopefully you guys will chime in as well, do you think college teams will actually show up in NBA 2K16? If they do show up, will they be playable? Will they be tied to the story, line that they're talking about with Be the Story? Could it possibly be a revised College Hoops 2K8? Maybe. As well as, and this is a far stretch, Smitty, but could it possibly be for a future college football game? Who knows? Everyone, even the guys in the videos, are assuming that it's for 2K16. Now, let me say this. I could be missing something. Maybe they know something that I don't. But from what I'm seeing, it doesn't look like it's confirmed for NBA 2K. Who knows? Is there a possibility of a college football game? I know that's a stretch, but we'll definitely chop that up. So to go ahead and get started, man, Smitty, I'll ask you first, man. After playing with PGA Tour and getting your hands on it, how do you feel about the game?
I mean, it's just what I had expected. I didn't expect this game to be Tiger Woods 15 or Tiger Woods 16, like a decent number of people out here pretty much had the expectation to be. This basically goes in line with what you had said as far as the whole engine aspect, like you were just hinting at a moment ago, the expectations. I do like the game. I do like the gameplay. Does it feel a bit easy playing on tour right now? Like, yeah, you're playing on the hardest difficulty, and basically you can hit straight line strokes pretty easy right now. But what we also got to remember is a few things here. Number one, this game is on a 2-year. We don't know what the year. It's a multi-year release, so it's not going to come out there. It's not coming out next year. You see what I'm saying? So I would be if these guys are going to go in the line like they did with UFC. I would expect a good amount of. You probably will get a lot more players added into the game. A lot more, a lot of tweaks and refinements, and there may even be some mechanics that may be patched in, at some point down the line here. So over the next few months. So who knows what they'll do. But from the game starting out right now, I mean, I didn't get to do a plethora of things. I only got to play a few rounds, but I definitely got to get back into the swing of playing it. But I like I said, I do like the mechanics. The Frostbite engine is definitely showing up. There's no doubt about that. You do see some textures popping in and out, like you see, plants and animals and grass and everything else all pop in and out at times. And maybe that has to do with the engine, you know what I'm saying? Because this is their first time on this engine. So it could have something to do with the engine. It could, the rendering of the engine in terms of what's going on, because you have minimal load time. Like, I was able to play 2 rounds in a smidge over a half hour, which would take a lot more time playing Tiger Woods 14 or any of the older editions of the game. So that right there is a big thing for me. But like I said, my overall impressions, am I extremely pleased with the game? No. Am I upset with it because of where the game fell, because the game doesn't have that much depth to it right now? No, not at all. Because this is what happens when and I spoke, Sim and I talked offline about this. This is what happens when you start off on a brand new engine. It doesn't matter, I've seen people that did reviews of the game and everything, and these are guys some of these guys were at E3. And when you go to E3, the devs are right there. You can ask them all these questions and find out what the deal is with the game and everything else. And these are the guys that go to E3, and then they do these reviews like they had no idea what was happening. When I know I'm very confident that they got to play the game. And they interviewed these guys to find out, okay, what can we expect? They let you know. They let you know about all these things. So it's like they're shocked that, oh my gosh, the player models aren't this, and oh my gosh, the graphics are this and that. I'm like, ooh, the game was right there for you to play. And I'm pretty sure the devs let you know what was up in terms of the game too. So, but this is not, I'm not saying this to give it a pass necessarily. I'm saying this, this isn't about giving it passes and all that stuff. If the game ain't right, the game ain't right for you. Just don't mess with it. But for me, I knew that putting a game on a brand new engine like that, you are going to suffer a setback. It's just a matter of how drastic of a setback is it going to be. The same thing happened in PES when they implemented that Fox engine. There's a reason. There's a reason why. I mean, I don't know the exact reason, but there's a reason why they did not release PES 14 on next gen. You see what I'm saying? You look at NHL 15. What did those guys do? They started from scratch. Look what happened. It had good gameplay, yeah, but the whole game felt barren. See what I'm saying? You have a game in PES 14. Was the game bad? Not to the fullest, but you had people complain about various aspects that were done right the year before. They talked about AI issues, control issues, piece setting issues and stuff. So there were issues because that engine implementation made some things take a step back. That's going to happen. We all remember Madden 2005. You know what I'm saying? Madden Next Gen trailer, anybody? I mean, come on. When you put a game on a new engine, the game is going to take steps back. That's going to happen. NBA Elite, when they tried to switch that engine up and drop it and think it was going to be consistent. There was no way in the world that was going to happen. It takes you time to get that game up. Yeah, you could bring it up to a point where it's never been before due to that tech, but it's something that's going to take time to build. And that's what I'm saying. Same thing with this PGA Tour. It's going to be it's right in that same mold. When these games develop on a brand new engine or brand new tech, something will step up. There will be certain aspects that'll step up. Usually it's the graphics fidelity. The graphical fidelity is what usually steps all the way up. But gameplay, AI, modes, and stuff like that, those are things that usually fall by the wayside to an extent or take a big time step back. And that's the case here. So that's why I said I'm not shocked to see people be displeased and say, oh, well, I'd rather play the golf club instead of playing this because da 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 da. I'm like, well, yeah, golf club, they have plenty of time to flush out all their problems too, because that game came out like what, back in March or something like that? Like it came out a long time ago. No, it came out on PC like a good while back, like back in the fall or winter. So it's been out. So that's what I'm saying. Like, there's nothing wrong with having lofty expectations for the game. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm just saying, from the people that are reviewing the game, knowing full well that a good number of these guys went to E3, saw the game, more than likely talked to these devs and knew what was coming, to only act like, oh man, this is the Tiger Woods 15. Like, well, of course it wasn't going to be that. Why would I dare think that it was going to be that? You know what I'm saying? So, but no, like I said, I like what I played, but it is an entry level game. And it is something, you know, it is going to be a big time work in progress, like what Sim was saying in the intro, like we talk about with Madden. It's the same kind of deal with the PGA. So the one thing I will say, I'll just end it with this and give it to Sim. One thing you guys got to remember is this. When we scream out, especially when we're talking about games like Madden and all that, and we screaming out new engine, remember where Live started at when they scrapped everything and did a new engine. NBA Elite, they canceled their game 2 times before putting out Live 14, and everybody laughed at that game. See what I'm saying? You look at PES 14, that game took steps backwards in terms of the gameplay, in terms of the gameplay quality. That took steps back. NHL 15, that game took steps backwards. The gameplay was nice, but overall, people were very displeased because all these other things got stripped. So if you're screaming for that engine, you better already know, pay attention to all these other games and see what's going to happen. Just like UFC, brand new engine, that game was incomplete too. And they did all that patching and updating, but it's still not the full, you know, it's not the full package. It's going to take time for that to happen when you bring in a new engine. It doesn't matter what generation of consoles you are. You bring in a new engine, you're taking steps back. That's just it. Doesn't matter. So I'll pass it to you, Phil.
Yeah, man, I don't really have much more to add. You know, most of everything that you said, I would have said. I was going to take the approach about the engine and all this. I'm starting to learn more and more, Smitty, as we have the opportunity to, you know, work closely with game developers and speak with other developers from other gaming companies and such. I don't necessarily know, or I don't think that it's necessarily the engine. When people say, some of you guys know, let's not get it twisted. Some of you guys know. Some of you guys are tech savvy, as well as a lot of guys have come on here who do programming, and they've said the exact opposite. Where they've said, well, no, you don't necessarily have to do the engine over. And I'm starting to believe that as well, because it seems like really it's technology within the engine. You know, I'll be real brief with this, but again, the best example is look at the double team pass blocking and the way they block now. That was a technology that Clint created, a tech to run in the game. Didn't have anything to do with the engine, because I think the engine, what I'm learning, and I could be wrong, but what I'm learning with conversation and just seeing with my own eyes, the engine to me is more so what powers it. You know, almost like, and I know some of you guys who are really technical will probably get me for this because it's not really the same comparison. But the way I look at it is almost like a Mac computer or a PC. You know, the operating system, like Windows is what powers it or what have you. I guess I'm saying that correctly. Or like the max iOS. But I don't know. That might not be a good example, but I guess you guys kind of see what I'm saying. I think the engine is really what powers the game, but not necessarily controls what is produced in the game. I think it may give you more capability to produce more in the game. But I don't know if when we in the community say engine, if we're really using that, in the right sense. But yeah, man, the only thing else I would add, and then we can move on, that I'll add about PGA, like I said, man, Smitty covered it all. I'm not a huge golf gamer. I don't even play golf in real life. Yes, I've gone to the driving range. I've had a wonderful time doing that, and I started to respect golf the first time I did it because I was sore afterwards. I was like, what the? But anyway, from just playing it as the purest casual gamer that can be with golf, I liked it. But I don't know enough to say, oh, it lacks this, oh, it lacks that, oh, it's not Tiger Woods. I really don't know. But to me, it felt nice. I liked it. I love the environment. Clearly, you guys know I'm a fan of the ball physics because I did a video on it. And I was very impressed, even though, like Smitty said, there are some times where you see a little bit of poppage, even some twitchy movement a little bit, like when in the cut scenes. So it just goes to show you, man. I mean, just because it's a new engine, I don't know if it irons out those type of things in the first year. But I definitely like what I see, man, and it makes me think, if not anything else, man, maybe Frostbite can be used for other sports titles within EA Sports, at least for the environment aspect. I would love to see it, but, we got to caution ourselves. Like Smitty said, who knows what happens if they throw this new engine, or, maybe they have a way to make it go smooth. I don't know. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens down the road, but I definitely like what I saw from the environment, the way it looks visually. I mean, even like some of the birds that fly by looked stunning. It looked like a real bird. So I love that part of it, and it felt good. It was challenging to me because, like I told Smitty, on the left stick, now is how you swing versus when I played Tiger, it was on the right stick. So that was, took some getting used to, but I'm not going to dive too much more into it. I think Smitty handled that. And the last thing I will say real quick, though, Smitty, and I think this is important to say, like I said, some guys I think are too technical. I put out the video, and a point that I made in the video was I like how the ball was creeping down the hill. And that's what you would expect, on a decline or incline or however you want to call it. But then a guy said, yeah, well, realistic. And I'm not making fun of you, dude. I'm just, making the point if you're listening. But then he said, well, that really would never happen because in thick rough, the ball would never roll. Okay. I see your point. Definitely see that. But I think what we got to kind of get away from, sometimes when we're trying to make a point in a video, I don't think it's necessary to point out every single flaw. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to show what the Frostbite engine can bring with the ball physics, the ball physically bending individual blades of grass. I've never seen that. That's what I was pointing out. It wasn't about me being politically correct on whether or not the ball can move in that type of grass, because actually, watching golf, I've seen a ball roll in the rough. I've also seen it get stuck. So obviously, I know that, that's a possibility, but I was just trying to focus on the engine. So I think sometimes when we're making points, it's okay to give an opinion, but I don't think we need to always counter each other. I mean, because a lot of people in the community do it, countering each other with points. Why don't we just go with what the guy is trying to show in his video, comment on that, and then, give your opinion, but the whole back and forth. And I'm not saying that, this guy did that, but I've seen it across other people's videos. Somebody tries to make a good point, and everyone, someone comes in and tries to, no, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, dude, I think by now with these sports titles, all of us know the flaws. You understand? So, I don't know. I just thought I needed to say that. But yeah, man, let's go ahead and move on to the, go ahead.
Okay. Now, I was going to say real quick in addition to that, we, as a community in general, we need to stop acting like we watch every single second of every single sport event ever that's ever taken place to try and say, well,
Right.
that can happen, but this can't. This can, but that can't. Like, and I'm just co-signing off of, and piggybacking off of what you're saying, because I'm pretty sure that guy that said that, he's not watching every single invitational, every single open of every single player that's ever played to sit up there and say that, well, that can't happen. Like, you don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't know. I mean, typically, yes, that would not make sense to have that happen. But do you know for sure? No.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's all I'm just saying. Like, just going off of what you said there. So,
cause shoot,
as
man,
that was proven,
just using
football.
Yeah.
So,
Just using your example real quick, man. I mean, think about golf. I would never in a million years think somebody could get a hole in one off a tee off shot. I would never think that, but I've seen it. How in the world did they do that? You see what I mean? But if there was something that happened in a game, people might feel like, oh, hey, they can't do that. But it has happened. So just like Smitty said, I mean, we need to stop being so critical to the 10th power. You know, like it's cool, but all right, man. You know that's all we're saying. But moving on to the community topics, and this is probably going to be my favorite segment. This might even be my favorite show so far because this is our vision for the show. It's for you guys, the community. You know, I would rather spend time talking about the things that you guys want us to talk about instead of us just jabbering and giving our own opinions on things. If it's going to be for the community, of the community, then definitely keep feeding us with topics. And if it gets out of hand, the way we'll start doing it is we'll start taking the topics that are in the highest demand and cutting them down that way. But the first one here, man, we want to talk about Madden's equipment and the player models. This was a great topic, in my opinion, Smitty, man, that, the guy sent to us. Definitely equipment, man. It is definitely an issue. You know, I feel like it is important if you're going to replicate a sport. I like to throw that word around. We all say simulation, and I think all of us in our community understand what we're referring to when we say simulation. In reality, what we're saying is replicate what I see on Sunday. And I also believe if you're going to do that, then you must have it look like Sunday. Not just feel and play like, but I also want it to look the same way. That's the same reason why you don't hear us talk about it a lot here on the show. We're just as big as presentation guys as the next man. I want it to feel like Sunday. If you're talking about football, that was one of the main things, to be honest with y'all, that attracted me from 2K5. When I cut that thing on the first time, I said, oh my God, this is ESPN Sunday Night Football. That's what it was. From the sideline reporter, from riding the bike, I was like, yo. And then the game was good. That's why, to me, it is it is the most authentic NFL football experience that we have had as a football community. Because Madden still doesn't have all of those elements, even though you could definitely argue, and I would even be one of the ones that would say this. There are things in Madden 15 right now, and absolutely in Madden 16. In my opinion, that is better than gameplay in 2K5. I know somebody's going to record this right here and make a video out of that. Yes, I'm saying that. There are aspects, if you don't believe it, that's up to you. There are aspects in Madden 15 and absolutely in Madden 16 that is better than 2K5. To the same token, there are aspects, and 2K8, yep. But on the same token, you got to say there are still aspects in those games that are better than Madden. That's just the reality of it. That's what, people who have an open mind can say. That's the truth. But I still think the full replication experience and all of that, got to give it to 2K5. But that's just leading to my point about the equipment, man. I think that stuff is as important. We need that. We need guys to look like themselves. I mean, we need the field to look like the field. I want to feel like I'm at, in Seattle. and playoff time. But, just sticking on the topic with the equipment stuff, I absolutely agree. I know the guys listening. I agree with you 100%, man. And it's not where it needs to be. It is very encouraging, though, that we heard from, Clint, even in my interview, where he said that was one of the biggest things that he couldn't get to. They couldn't get to this year that he really wants. He said it himself, just like I'm saying it. He's just as big on presentation and authenticity as anyone else. So he wants it to come, and it will come in the near future. So it's encouraging to hear that. But we have to judge games based on the now. And as of right now, they're definitely lacking in that area. And yes, I agree. I would love to see a situation where you could do a full body scan. It may be a little harder though, just understanding the process. I know a lot of times they go to training camps and things like that. Sometimes guys come in, like you guys see, the pictures they show for NBA Live, how guys are just there. They come in, they meet them at a hotel or what have you. So I will say it might be a little more difficult to have someone fully suited up, depending on the location. But if it could be done, I want to see that. Instead of just getting that face, get the whole. Let me see what he really looks like in that helmet. So get the scan of him out the helmet, put that helmet on him, and then put him in all of his suit up. Whether you guys remember this from high school, we used to call it the boot up. You put the tape on your cleats. If you one of those dudes, let me see all of that. Let me see the sleeves and the one sock up, one sock down, all of that. And to me, you're only gonna get that the right way if you scan the full body. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it, man. What you think, Smitty?
I mean, I agree with you, but my whole thing is give me the gameplay first, and I've said that for the longest time. I know you have people that are sticklers for equipment, but I can give care less in terms of what equipment they wear, and they can wear it. They could go back to the Leatherhead era if they want to. Go ahead and put on them leather boys and just have on sweaters. Sweaters and the shortened pants, and throw on some cleats with some long socks and just have at it. Everybody wear the same gear. Just give me the gameplay. And once the gameplay is Trump type, then by all means, go ham with equipment and presentation and all that. Matter of fact, do what NCAA 10 did. Get two networks on there if you can. You know what I'm saying? At the same time. Get NFL Network and ESPN dual. You know what I'm saying? So hey, the more the I should say in terms of telecast, what CBS and NBC or whatever. You got NBC working with NHL. See if you can get NBC working in that. You know what I mean? So who knows? You could get some kind of deal done. So that's all I'm saying. Like Fox Sports, one of them. Do it like that. I'm all with it, but just get the gameplay right first before we go that route. Because look, this is the reason why every single time we talk about other stuff like dynamic weather and all that stuff and the wind, how it reacts in different arenas, before you could do all that, the main thing that gets, and this is the thing, the main thing that gets put out visually the most, not what people write, what is visually depicted is gameplay. No one's visually showcasing, oh man, this equipment's not there. That's a problem. No, they're talking about gameplay and how this is a problem. Player movement, how this guy tackles, how this guy does this, how the secondary play is, how this receiver didn't go for the ball. How come they're not doing this? How come they're not doing that? So equipment and all that's not going to matter. I mean, what? The gameplay is flawed, but hey, he's got that part. He's got that helmet, though. You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't, no. I don't need, I could do without those upgrades until you either get the game there or in the process of getting the game there. As long as it's not taking away from making developmental strides, which we know they all work in separate departments, but I'm just saying, as long as something being added in is not taking away from something else, then fine, go ham. Because once again, I've said, we know that the disc is not being fully, it's not maxed out. It's not, it's not at 50 gigs. So they got room. It's just a matter of what's more important. Is it more important to tackle a gameplay element, or is it more important to get some equipment? I'll take gameplay all day. Oh, you know what I'm saying? I don't care if they have the same type. Skip all that. Get the gameplay, and then we can worry about equipment and all that stuff. You know, bells and whistles, basically. Like Rex had said at E3 from that interview. And see, this is why I said it last week. I'm telling you, Sam's interview is going to be tweeted a lot this year. You know what I'm saying? I'll be like, listen to this interview. Because all these things that people are going to bring up in concern-wise, those two interviews fit the bill perfectly in terms of what both of those guys said. So, you know, but that's just how I feel about it, though. So I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. You know, and I know, I will say this. I know some people will say, okay, we're tired of saying that. We're right there with you. You know, we just deal with reality. That's the best way I can explain what myself is about, Azure Effect, Smitty. We just deal with reality, man. You know, and whatever some people want to call that, it's up to you. I can't tell you to think differently. But the reality of it is, and if you continue to listen to us, like, you know, and I know I'm going to forget some guys, but these are just guys who always come on and bless us with a great perspective. You listen to 757 and NY Kia and even guys like DSK and 205 and, you know, my man Ray, you know, 337. If you just listen to how they perceive things, that's it in a nutshell. That's what's happening. You ain't even got to listen to us. We come on here and we tell you what we know. And the day that they do something that we don't agree with, guess what? We're going to come here and tell you that too. But that's just what it is right now, man. The game still has a long way to go. Yes, it's definitely improving. Yes, Madden 16 will definitely be that game that I feel like is finally the foundation that they can build on. But there's still a ton left to do. And if you don't believe it, make your own personal list of like the amount of details that you want to see. And you'll find out, yeah, y'all right, man. They still got a lot to do, even though it's improving. But yeah, you know, that's just what it is, you know. So gameplay first, but I absolutely agree. I want to see all of that. It has to get in there, and it has to get in there relatively soon, meaning that gameplay should be there very soon. That's what I expect. I don't expect 8 years from now we still talk about, oh, okay, now we can do that. No. I'm talking about like in the next two games or so. I want to see all this stuff start coming to life. And real quick, just to touch on, I see my man DSK did tweet us. He said that he would love to see Larry Ridley, you know, start doing some play-by-play. And you know what? We may address that on another show, but I'm with you there. You know, I think it's time to get a different style of commentary. You know, maybe go with some local guys, and Larry would be a good one. Some people that could come in all the time. Like, imagine having a situation where you got locals, and you know they do a great job. Look at what's his name? Cameron Irvine. I'm not sure how he pronounces his name on SFL. What? I would love to hear this guy in a Madden game. So you could get local talent like that, right? Right there in your backyard. You can bring them in. They can sit down together. It'll be like, hypothetically, like me and Smitty going to the studio together and doing commentary. And then if we live there, you can bring us in anytime to do updates. Now let's do a playoff situation. Oh, now we're getting close to the Super Bowl. That's what I'm talking about. I would love to see it go that direction, but we're going to save that topic for another show. Let's move on, man. We're pretty good time right now. And shout-outs to Azure Effect. He's listening to the show, guys. As you guys know, he's in school. They're on a break. He says he's going to try to call in and speak once he, you know, gets out of class. But shouts out to him, man, doing his thing. We're definitely proud of him. But the next topic here, man, let's go ahead and talk about the ratings model. You know, another community guy gave us this topic. You know, like I said, he said in NCAA they were getting very close to, you know, a good model where they would, you know, basically give players that shouldn't be able to have the same agility or speed or what have you with another player. And basically the example he gave was a lot of times the average linebackers would have less or lower agility and things like that, so they wouldn't be as athletic as running backs. So I guess what me and Smitty will discuss is, do we like that model, and what do we really think the ratings model should be? We've said this 100 times, so I'm not going to really spend time on that. I'm gonna try to make it brief here so we can get through it. I agree with that model 100%. It's the stuff that I tell Rex all the time, tell all the other guys. I think now maybe is the time to start working on a different rating system. Not trying to put all of it on Donnie. I don't want to sit here and make it seem like Donnie was the reason why it was like that. No. There's a structure that was there. Donnie was just the guy who was the rating czar. I don't think Donnie had anything to do with the structure of the rating. So let's get that clear. I want to see now that, the guy who's been doing it all this time, maybe this is the perfect time to try a different model as well. So I agree with things like that, man. Player-specific rating. Player-specific. We talked about it a few weeks ago. So again, like I said, I'm not going to spend time on detailing each aspect. But that's what it needs to be. It needs to be player-specific. My quarterback does not really necessarily need hit power. Yeah, a quarterback can make a tackle, but what happens when the quarterback makes a tackle? What usually happens? He usually gets knocked out, or he goes, flying, or he drags the guy down. Finally, like that, I will say it myself. That lucky tackle that Roethlisberger had on that Colts player that year. Y'all remember way back on that fumble. That wasn't supposed to happen. I don't know where that dude was running, but Ben happened to throw his arm out there. And that's what you should see from certain quarterbacks. If a Peyton Manning is trying to make a tackle, you don't need no hit power. Let it play out and let the physics determine what happens. You know what I mean? So player-specific ratings is definitely what we need, to where 100 speed for an offensive lineman is not the same as on a wide receiver. And I don't think it's like that now, but you guys get the gist of it. That's what we need. We need to be able to have these scales, even when we're doing with the numerics. It needs to be position specific. So, if a guy is 100 speed as an offensive lineman, he's just a little quicker than a guy, who's 70 speed as an offensive lineman. But clearly, he's not going to be as fast as a wide receiver at 100 speed. So that's kind of, where I think they should go with it. What you think, Smitty?
I mean, the speed, like you had said, that speed differential model, it's kind of hard. It's kind of like a between a rock and a hard place kind of deal. Because the reason why I say this, when you watch that NFL top 100 players, and this is funny, like, because I was just looking at because I didn't get to see all the players, for every single one, but I looked at the ones for the Lions, and they showed DeAndre Levy. Now let's say that we're supposed to put the speed of the linebackers at 70. Okay, I mean NCAA did that, but let's say you put it at 70. They had a play where he covered Jordy Nelson in man coverage, stride for stride, all the way from back settle to rotate, and covered him all the way and broke up the pass to basically a game-saving defensive play for a touchdown. He's a linebacker, and he's running stride for stride with a receiver. And he didn't have no 7-8 yard cushion. He was only off him maybe by like 2. He only had like maybe a 3 yard cushion, 3-4 yard cushion, and he stayed with him. So then when you have things like that happen, so what do? Because you don't he's one player considered in the NFL top 100, but you have linebackers that can make plays like that. And they don't have to be the highest rated overall guy. So what do you do to measure that? See, and this is what I'm saying. That's where when you have brought that topic up, I'm like, see, I already got a point that does negate the principle and say, well, they should be slow. Why? If they're able to make plays like that, then what are you going to truly distinguish to say who can do what to whom and who can't?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what makes it hard. You can have a rating system. That's why it would be better if they did something like APF, have the governed rating system underneath, and just have abilities on the surface.
Yeah.
So that way, when you know what I'm saying, because and do your updates underneath the hood. So that way, when you see dudes, when you see dudes scoring, if you see not DNs, but when you see linebackers and such, like you see guys that all of a sudden, in college they weren't known for doing this at the third, but week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, you know what I'm saying? They're just balling out and doing things they weren't accustomed to do. Give them the ability, and give them that ability, and then enhance the rating underneath. So that way it's legit. They can still get burned now. That just like APF. Jerry Rice still drop a good. He'll still drop passes. He'll still slip and fall and everything, even though he had magic feet and agility and route guide and all that stuff. He'll still slip and fall. He didn't run every single route perfectly, but you know what I'm saying? He still is going to be a top performer, but he can be stopped, and then that creates more of a balance. But you're just not seeing it on the surface, because until we had that APF editor, the game was, you had a legit game for the most part. So at least as far as how, when it came to creating players and rating them. So that's what I'm just saying, that would be the best route. Make it so that we don't necessarily see the ratings. Just like what they did with basically the swagger rating, how dudes, react after they score touchdowns and stuff. That's a rating that they have. There is a rating. It's just under the hood. And I'm like, well, why not do that with all of them? You know what I'm saying? You can still say who the best player is in the game, but you just don't necessarily need to have ratings. So, and that's like Sim said, that is something that we speak to the devs about all the time. Many times over. So
yeah, man. I mean, just to add a small piece to it is what you said. Like I said, we covered it before already on the show. But along with the player-specific ratings, then you have player and position-specific traits. You can have a trait. So like you said, and I'm going to agree with you because, I'm going to be biased for a half second here. Ryan Shazier. The dude runs a 4.3, man. He ran a 4.3. This dude is 230. Well, he came in the league 237 pounds. Middle linebacker. So how do you compensate for that? Is it fair to just give him a lower, agility or speed just because he ain't supposed to be a running back? No. So I guess what you could do is, like you said, you could give the governed ratings or whatever, or have certain tiers. They can, it fits within their position. But then this guy just might be a speed burner. So he's going to be able to have that extra gear, so that way he will be faster than the guy that's 70 speed or whatever, who's just, he has normal speed for a linebacker. Just like, again, I'm being biased. Look at Lawrence Timmons. That's another one. Lawrence Timmons on the field is super fast. And I think when he came out of Florida State, I might not have the exact number, but I want to say he ran like a 4.5 or something like that. That's fast. And he's big. So he don't, in the open field, he don't look as fast, but from sideline to sideline, that boy is a problem. I mean, in that middle, you better hurry up and get through the hole, because if he can get a chance, he going to get to you. So how do you measure that if you do, if you cap it? So I definitely agree with that. Agree with the topic. There's a ways to pull it off. We just have to find a way to do it. And I think what Smitty and I are suggesting, as well as a lot of you guys probably would agree, I think that's the best way to do it. Have everything player specific, ratings and traits, and there you have it. All right, so next up, man, we're doing good, man. We're moving through these topics. It is currently 8:49, so we have about an hour. Well, now it's saying an hour and 9 minutes and 55 seconds, so we're doing real good. This whole 2K thing, man, and I tell you, I didn't know anything about it until my guy, Ty, you know who you are. He pointed it out to me on Twitter, and I did some research. And I saw that, there's some articles out there talking about, and it's been hinted towards ever since we saw that initial trailer about Be the Story. But now there seems to be some evidence. I've double checked the evidence myself. Right now, just like it was said in the video, that has been taken down on the CLC's website. You can no longer see these teams. But it definitely shows, unless these guys are related to David Copperfield, they definitely showed us in their videos that you select a certain team, like Connecticut, I believe Wisconsin was another one. It came up, it said 2K Sports, there's one license out. So, of course, the speculation will be this is going to be for 2K basketball. I think that would be phenomenal. It would be great to see that, and for more than one reason. Not just because of 2K basketball, and not just because it's another mode, because you know my feelings on that, Smitty. It's kind of like, I know it ain't the same, but the mode to me is kind of like, what they did with Draft Combine, kind of trying to I don't want to say rehash because it's different, but kind of just revisiting things that they used to do, which is not a bad thing. But I still got gameplay issues with 2K, and I'm a little hard on them because it is a great game that could be phenomenal if they took care of some of those legacy issues. So that's my beef with 2K, just to, go on my soapbox for a minute there. But to me, it's not so much that mode. Like, it doesn't make me hype just to be able to go to college and all that. Because, again, I'm not a my player gamer right now. I might get into it if my interest is intrigued. That doesn't do much for me. But to me, if this is the case, that opens the door for college sports to return. And it opens the door for the stretch that I mentioned earlier, possibility of maybe doing a college football game. Hey, if you get the license for one sport, maybe you negotiate it and say, look, man, we just want to use the license for, your school and players and such, however it works with the college thing, because I know you can't really use names and all that, but maybe it opens the door for a potential football game. That would be great. So that's why it makes me excited. I take a little different approach than everyone else in the community that are hardcore, 2K and my player gamers. I'm looking at it as it opens the door for college sports to return, whether that's basketball or football, and also, to go ahead and throw EA Sports in that fold too, and that may open the door for EA to get back in there and give us another NCAA football. If these collegiate games are maybe not NCAA, but maybe they just would go through the CLC. Like, remember, guys, with what was it? NCAA or college? It was supposed to be college football 15. Y'all remember that? And they were going to bypass the NCAA. So maybe this opens that door again. So that's what makes me excited about it. As far as the basketball game, like I said, I think it's speculation right now. It's a very good speculation because it seems like the logical thing would be is that it would be in their next basketball game with the whole Be the Story and all. And the last thing I'll say on that is maybe it would follow those athletes that of the story that you can play. Even though, one of the guys did point out, guys like Jordan, North Carolina wasn't currently on the website as a license. So, who knows? It was still a ways away, but I think it's all speculation, healthy speculation, and, we'll just have to see what happens. But what was your take on it, Smitty?
Really, I don't have that much to take away from it. I mean, outside of like, okay, yeah, it's a licensing bit for the colleges. Okay, that's cool, but what's the overall? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's gonna be the overall end game in that regard? That's my only thing. It's like, we really don't know. We don't truly know what the deal is with it. So, okay, yeah, they have these few colleges, but what's gonna be, what's really gonna come of it? Like, what is it gonna be used for, and what capacity? Are they just getting these few schools because they got the permission and they just said, hey, you know what? We're only using it for this small capacity. Is it okay? And that's it. So I don't know. I mean, it's nothing. It's nothing heavy to really read into right now and say, yo, this really kicks the door open for everything. I wouldn't necessarily go that far as of yet, but once again, it is kind of it is a wait and see kind of deal as far as what 2K is going to do, because we could be all this stuff could be said right now in terms of what's going to happen when it could really be a whole bunch of nothing at the end of the day.
Yeah,
so
pretty much.
That's why I'm saying, that's why I'm, taking it a bit easy in that regard. It's like, well, if something comes of it, cool, but it wouldn't shock me in the least bit to see only a little bit happen, and it'd be pretty much a bunch of nothing. So that's why I'm like, we'll just have to wait and see what truly is being done as far as 2K getting some licensing. So I'm just stay tuned and see what develops.
Yeah, man, because we all know what speculation gets you, man. Even when we had a little more than this with Montana, look what happened. So it's like,
yeah,
let's wait and see. It would be great. It would be great, and I'm sure it would be great and enjoyable for those guys who play my play. I think that's a cool element. Might even get my attention, but we have to wait and see what's going to happen with that. Because, like I said, man, and I think I speak for a lot of people here, just to say this real quick, since that was our last topic and we can move on to the callers. I'm really looking forward to live, man. And, for the obvious reason of improving, that's why I want to see what they're doing. Because, being able to see it at E3, knowing how early it was, I was advised by, Connor and, guys like, Ryan Santos and those guys basically saying, we got a long way. Because, if you think about it, E3 is a long way for an NBA game that doesn't release. And, we pretty much can assume it generally doesn't release until, October, November. Usually November or what have you, but or October. I'm not sure with live, but anyway, I'm curious to see, man. I'm very curious to see. Like I've said several times, there's basketball principles that goes on in NBA Live 15. It just doesn't look good. NY Kia said it best on my recent video. The problem with live is sometimes it lacks an animation that doesn't allow the computer or the user to do what they want to do. There's no animation for that. So it looks crazy. It pops, and he is exactly right. So he made another point, I'll say this real quick, about, he's a little concerned because he doesn't want live to be animation heavy because that's the problem 2K has. And he did see a post saying that they've added tons of new animations, and he's concerned that it will go that route. And I kind of told him, well, I feel you on that as well. From what I played, it didn't feel animation heavy. Now, from then to release, I have no idea what could happen. But hopefully they don't lose that quality, because I think that is something that live has over 2K, and it feels better because it feels more natural because it's not a forced animation, if you will. But we'll see, man. We'll see how it ends up. Do you have anything to add to that before we open up the call line?
No, yeah, this was something that I spoke about with, Kia about before. I think we spoke about it on Twitter back then. And even on the show here, I said, like, if Live had the end, if both of these games traded off in terms of their pluses, we'd have two great basketball games. You know what I'm saying? So when I look at what Live has and what they can add to it, like if they have, all they need to do is they need to add a lot more play calling, and they add a good amount of animations. Now, saying they got they said 8,000. They have over 8,000 animations they added to the game. We just don't know to what extent. That the only thing is that we don't know to what extent that is.
Right.
So it's not necessarily a bad thing because they added all those animations. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm looking forward to see what it is that they do. So it could be good. It could be good. I believe it will be because that's what they severely were lacking were animations as well as the play calls. They have some really legitimate AI as Sim shown in his video. Those kind of plays happen often in the game. So it's like it has some legit stuff. They just need to expand on it. So
yep. So we'll definitely see what happens, and we'll be waiting to see, man. So
yeah.
look at that, guys. We did it. We have exactly 58 minutes and 45 seconds left for you callers. So let me go ahead and make the announcement again for anyone who came on late. If you're listening, you want to give us a call, feel free. This is the time to do it. We'll answer your call in the order that it has been received. The phone number as of right now is 516-453-9126. I have to say as of right now because you guys remember we used to have a different phone number, and then for some reason during the show, the phone number changed. So this is the number we currently have. Again, 516-453-9126. Press 1. We'll bring you in the queue, and we'll be happy to field your questions. Right now, we do have a resident member, 757. We're going to bring him on first, and then after that, in the following order, 214, 803, and 205. All right, so let's go ahead and get 757 in on the line. Got you in live, man. What's going on tonight? Well, it looks like there we go. We got you now. What's going on, man?
What's going on, fellas? I'm gonna keep it brief tonight. I think the thing that I want to see, because we're on the verge of the games coming out, and what I want to see is immersion. You know, put your kids to bed, or whatever your situation is, and now it's your Madden time, or your Live, or your 2K, and I want to get lost in it. I want to get lost in the game of Madden as I have in Drake Uncharted, where I've been playing the game and the bird called my name, and she got to call my name like 3 or 4 times before I snap out of the trance.
Yeah.
Right?
Huh?
I want to be able to play Madden and see it with a different set of eyes. Yes, weight and momentum appears to be an integral part, wide receiver DB interaction, but I want to be able to, once an animation happens or a play takes place, that I'm able to interrupt what's about to take place based on what I'm doing to my opponent. I want to be able to, whatever it is that I'm calling or whatever it is that I'm doing, that it simply works. That it works. I think guys don't realize a lot of times how good the guys in the National Football League are. I'm telling you now, fellas, everybody in that league does something really well. Whether it's read a defense, run out their shoes, or they're strong as a bull. They do something extremely well. Now, the problem is how they're able to maximize and take their talent to the next level. That's why you see wide receivers that's fast, they don't work on their route running, and all they can basically run is a fly route. That's why I'm a little concerned with that draft pick that they picked with Baltimore. He got to work on his feet. They're horrible. So I want to be able to see that. As far as the scanning, you guys talked about the scanning. They have to be able to reach out to other companies, right? You got sports science out there. You got to be able to reach out to those guys because they've done a scan. The scan is already done. You got to be able to see if y'all can do some type of deal or do something where you can borrow that technology or get them to come in and show you how they did it. We got to be able to do that. We talk about the announcers. Man, Phil and Jim done so many games together. Take that footage from CBS or whoever they were affiliated with at that time. See if you can borrow that information or pay for it or whatever you do. And you already have hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of games that they've already talked. Implement that type of audio into the system. They got to start thinking out of the box on those aspects. I really think they are. I just think that it's taking a little time with, all right, what do we do next? Because now, you guys have done a great job with getting on them about the core. We got to fix the game and make plays and make players do what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do them, period. That's what we want. So I'm looking forward to the next steps of, the helmets and the shoulder pads and scanning of the players and all of that stuff. But what I want to, fellas, is I want to get lost in it. When you guys talked about the PGA game, I think they get a little pissed off when golf has been such a monotone, serious game. And then you're playing, and then you see a freaking battleship go across the screen. It takes you out of the trance. Like, what the hell is that? They was telling you that they was doing some dilly-dally when they did that. I said, oh, Lord, that ain't PGA golf. Yeah, I don't want them to change the engine. I don't want them to change anything. I want them to stay with status quo and push and push and push. And get you guys and other guys who in the community to help soften the blow of, listen, guys, we got to take the trainer wheels off. Y'all guys got to figure this thing out. You got to go to the skills trainer and learn how to play the game. And that's in whatever sport that takes place. Fellas, I just want to get lost in it. In 16, I wanted to see some moments where we're in the connected franchise, and I said, man, that was crazy. I want to see some moments where I get a ball caught on me or I lose a game and I know exactly why. It wasn't because the AI messed up or because it was a flaw in the system. It was because I played the ball wrong. And we're okay with that. I just hope that you guys, we need you guys to tell them to listen. The game is coming out and people are going to absolutely freaking hate it. Not because it's not a better game, because they haven't been able to do that fun factor and they've always got rewarded for bad play. And they're sourpuss about not being able to throw into that double coverage or roll out this crazy way, throw it off their back foot on the backside of the field and throw a touchdown to the corner of the end zone. Like, come on, man. It ain't but a few guys in the league that can do it. That's what we want. That's what I want. I think that's what majority of the callers that come in want. I'm getting the Xbox One for one reason and one reason only. That's to play that game early. Because I want to see. I'm ready to play it. I'm jonesing. It's hard right now. I can't wait till August 1st, my birthday, for the countdown to start. Fellas, I thank you for your time, man. You guys have been brilliant. Y'all guys have done a great job in the community for not listening to the mess, going down there and giving the feedback that the community wants, the game that we need, and they seem to be going in that direction. Just tell them to keep pushing it. I don't want to play. I don't want to go out and play the game at one point and then all of a sudden the game changes. I don't want that.
Right.
I don't want to play something different. I want to play what you guys say you guys played. That's what I want. Guys, I appreciate your time. You can put me on mute, man. Thank you.
No problem, man. We always appreciate it. And yeah, it ain't much really to say after that, other than, I will say this, and we're gonna hold them to it. We all know what happened, last year, and we all have experienced it. You played the game, and things were looking good as far as inaccurate passes and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden, a patch comes out, and it's not as what it used to be. And we've been advised, that it's all about making people adapt and learning the game and all of that. There won't be no changes and anything like that. Now, again, and we've kind of told you guys this before, this kind of stuff comes from the developers. This is the reason why I said the sim community needs to make more noise and be more of a factor So our opinion really matters because, guess who was complaining about that stuff? I'm pretty sure it wasn't Sim guys. So they had, as a business, and I know 757 knows this, as a business, you got to listen to the community that is spending most of the money. That's the real talk. So that's why I always say, as a community, whether we are for each other or not, we have to be that one force. I'm sure there's guys in the community that don't like each other and this, that, and the third, but we have to be a strong force as a community to make sure some of the things that we want, is definitely happening. So we definitely appreciate your call, man. So let's go ahead and move on. Bring in 214. We'll let Smitty get that reply, and then, we'll go back and forth like that. They try to make it quick. 204, we got you in live, man. What's going on? Hello, hello. Hello, hello. 214. 214. All right, we're gonna move on to the next call. I think that is Neff one. I think he told me he's calling in directly from the computer, so he may be having issues. So I'll text him and see if that's him. So let's go ahead and grab the next one. Area code 803. We got you in live. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, fellas? I just had a question and then wanted to make a couple comments on a few of the topics. My question is, I'm pretty sure, I think it was OS I read in one of the E3 reviews. One of the guys was saying that he felt Matt had finally caught up with the other sports game as far as graphics this year. And which I thought the graphics were great last year, but in most of the videos I've seen, I don't see much of an improvement. I see some slight improvements, but I wanted you guys' comments on that as far as what you thought about the graphics this year, and was he accurate in saying it really took a huge leap, as well as some of the presentation. I know they did the presentation release last week. So I just want to know, what you guys could speak on as far as that goes, and as far as my comments, if Madden is to get rid of the rating system as it is now and go with more of a badge type system, which I think would be great. I would hope they maybe along with the badges, maybe give like a 4 or 5 star rating to go along with that badge. For example, a running back like say Le'Veon Bell, or he likes contact, and he'll put his shoulder into you, but he's no better.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And
right.
So I would hate for everybody with like a truck badge to become Bo Jackson or Bettis, because it's only one Bo Jackson and one Bettis, but there are a lot of backs that like contact. So I'd like to see them take it a step further and still differentiate a little bit between some of those attributes. And I think that will work great once they get the the signature animations in. Which brings me to the last thing I want to comment on was the animation. I may feel a little different about this than most of the film guys, but I really love the heavy animation. I think what we need to get across to them is we want them to be interruptible. You don't want to get stuck in animations that you have to watch ride out, but I think the more animations you have, at least for me, it brings that lifelike, movement. Because even though Madden, I really like what they're doing with the physics. The one thing that kind of throws me is when they kind of lose their animation, so to speak, and they're just kind of bouncing around and flailing a little bit. That still just kind of throws me a little bit. And I think last year was really good. They cleaned it up a lot. It seems to get work on certain slider settings. But once you get the right slider set, man, it really works well. But I think the key is to find that sweet spot where the animations are interruptible and branch into the different animations based on physics and your input. But that's pretty much all I had tonight, fellas. I mainly wanted to hear your comments on what you thought about Madden graphics-wise this year from what you've seen and what they're doing with the presentation.
All right. Well, as far as the graphics are concerned, when I got to last see and play it, it did not have all I got to see was a preview of how it would look graphically. I didn't get to see how it looked, how it actually came out. So what I can at least say from what I played in but when I played, last time I played it was back in April. So when I played it, in comparison to looking at like those articles they posted out and these screenshots that are out there, those graphics look way better than it did back in April. So the graphics, they definitely stepped it up. And like I said, I only got to see like a little preview that showed how, like, what their intent was for it to look. So I don't know how it was at E3. I mean, Sim can elaborate on that, but graphically, I'm pretty sure that once you see it and you have it in home and you're able to fire it up yourself, I'm pretty sure graphically it'll look a whole lot better than what you've seen in in comparison to 15. So I'll throw it to you.
Yeah, man. I was gonna actually go with what Smitty said too. We always see, the projection. And I was like, oh, okay. Because I remember when we saw it, I was like, oh, y'all doing that. And, like JP Davis came on last week and he mentioned, one of the main things that stuck out to him was the lighting and all of that. So, yeah, the graphics look a lot better, man. There's a lot more faces and it looks very good. I haven't seen the finished product. So I am curious to see that as well because, like Smitty said, them screenshots that are dropping now look real good. And knowing the process, these are screenshots of, like, the later version of the game. Those are not from early on. So, like, just to give y'all a tip real quick, when you see screenshots, the screenshots are usually of the latest rendition of the game. When I mean, like, up to let's take it off of this build. This might be the build that was running, like 4 days ago. That's usually how they pull screenshots. So the fact that they're pulling them out now, that's probably what the game is going to look like because it was projected to look that way. The only other thing I would say real quick, man, before I move on to the next call, and I do see that Neff came back in. So, guys, I'm going to bring him in first because he was the first caller, and then I'll get you 205. But one thing I would definitely say to agree with you real quick about what you said about differentiating the ratings and all that, even though, we want these traits and abilities, the number one thing, and I think you actually touched on it, is still physics. So you might have a guy, his intention is to run you over, but his weight, momentum, mass, relative position to the defender, all of that should go into account. He shouldn't be successful just because his trait says he trucks. He still needs to be in the right position and have the right, girth or power, momentum, whatever you want to call it, to get that truck off. So that's how you would differentiate it. Obviously, a Jerome Bettis might bust on through that hole more so than, I've even, believe it or not, I've seen, and this is what I like about him, I've seen Darren Sproles put his head down. Well, he might not have the same success as a Bettis because then you still got that weight differential. So, yeah, I think that's the best way to do it. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and move on to Area 253. This is Neff 1. We got you in live, man. What's going on?
What's up, man? Sorry about that phone call earlier. I don't know what happened. But
it's computers, man. You know how
ratings.
It works.
Oh, yeah, they suck. But talking about ratings, and what we've been up to lately, it does make a major difference in the game. NFL Fever, I don't know if anybody remember that, 2004, had sort of player-specific ratings, like offensive linemen did not have defensive lineman ratings, and running back and receivers are rated different. And that's exactly what every game, not just football, but baseball, basketball, they all need player-specific ratings. Guards and forwards are two different people. They're not the same thing. Tackles and guards are different. And I explained that to you on the phone. You probably already knew, but I just told you. But when you saw the broadcast I did, you noticed there was a lot of difference in consistency. I don't care if the game plays perfect, as long as it plays pretty consistent. And that's what I do with the ratings. I sit there and I have my own formula for what I do. It's hard to explain it, but I've been doing this for like 20-something years. So I developed a way to measure and translate the player from the real life to the player on the football field. And I kind of told you that earlier today when we were talking, that there's a certain number that, you give a player for a certain rating. You can't give every player the same rating. I've seen rosters where it's just a global rating and a couple of adjustments here and there. I can't do that. That's just not the way I do things. So when I rate a game, I put everything into every player. I read every player's information I could get. That's why it takes me so long. And, that kind of got people going mad at the beginning because I used to take a while to get my rosters out. But I want to do it right, or I want to do it at all. So when Madden 16 comes out and all the things that I've heard and, seen, you can improve a game in many ways, but ratings is pretty much the backbone of gameplay. If you don't have the ratings down, the game doesn't play. You got to have some ratings. Like, I agree with Smitty, the abilities and the underneath is a very good system. But I like the Madden traits. That does make a difference. As you've seen on the broadcast when I was, pointing stuff out, it does make a difference. And I know that it's supposed to make more of a difference this year. But that's why when I do my rosters and I send them to you and you test them for me, feedback is everything. And I wish, in EA they would understand that pretty soon, just, all these 50 ratings they got across the board, you need to cut that down and just give the player what they need. Yeah. Because they don't need a whole bunch of ratings just to play a game. And that gives the computer way too much. Sometimes they're going to pick the wrong animation due to the rating. And, that's when you get these little weird animations going on. So that's why, I've been doing ratings for years. You guys know it. Smitty, me's worked on a few things. You and I have worked on a lot of things. And to me, that's the backbone of the game. They have to get the ratings right. They have to. There's no excuse and time for failure. You have to, because that's what people are playing a game for. For instance, if Tom Brady had a 54% completion for the year, does he deserve the same ratings he got last year when he won the Super Bowl? Of course not. But some people are going to say, well, it's Tom Brady. To me, You got to go off the stats because that's all you got. You can't go off of his past career because that don't mean nothing. It's what he's doing in the season that means something. So when I rate according to stats only. I might throw in something because it was a player here and there, but like you made an example of the linebacker from Pittsburgh. I know how to rate that kind of speed in a linebacker. I know how to rate that kind of speed in an offensive lineman. But you have to use a combination of ratings to get that one position to play right. It ain't just one rating. You can't just put speed up at 90 and say, okay, he's going to make a lot of plays. Got to have, all those other little things combined. But I couldn't sit here and tell everybody how I do it because I don't even know how I do it half the time. I just do it. But, as what me and you've been talking about, the ratings have to be player specific. There's no getting around that in the future, no matter what. And that's not just football. That's every game. So just want to let you know. And I appreciate you guys, bringing up the ratings because that's when I like to come in and join in. You're talking about my favorite thing right there. So, it makes me feel good that people are noticing that without the ratings, the game don't play. It just doesn't play right. So, but when you played your roster I sent you, you noticed a few differences. It ain't going to improve the whole game. It isn't going to take care of all the bad things in it, but it plays a little more consistent. That's all we're looking for right now. But anyway, I'll leave you to your comments, and I'm out.
But definitely, we always appreciate Neff calling in, man. Like I said, like he said, we talk all the time, offline, and he's been doing this forever, and not just because I've known him for some years now. I see it in his games. I think most of us in this community has played some of his rosters, whether it was APF at one time. Everybody was playing, those rosters from BB Highlights. Who do you think was doing the ratings? That was Neff one. Then later on, after he stopped doing it, then, and not taking anything away from BB Highlights, but after that, then BB started, and I think his brother, they started doing them a little bit. But those, rosters that everybody was loving, the real official ones, those were F1 rosters. Backbreaker, the same thing. Some of you guys remember the Madden 08 footage I showed that time, and you were saying, whoa, that was some crazy gameplay. Guess who roster that was? Some of the recent Maddens, and like even right now, and I apologize, guys, somehow I messed up the game that I played earlier today, and I only got the fourth quarter, but I have that video up right now. I released it here while we were on the show. Just explaining what we're doing, and I'll explain it here real quick before we go to the next caller since we have a little bit of time. What Neff is doing is he's getting geared up for Madden 16, and like he said, a lot of these things are starting to matter more now, traits and things like that. So he's doing some test rosters, and everybody is kind of beat on Madden right now as far as 15. It's even hard for me to get through it sometimes just because I know the future. I know what Madden 16 has. But we're going to try to I don't think Neff is going to do too many more of the broadcasts. I told him that I would, play some of the games, chop it up, put it on YouTube for you guys to see. Because we're getting real close, I can't promise how many of them will go up because you guys know right now, today is the 16th. Everybody knows we generally get Madden pretty, we usually definitely get it before the general public, which leaves, you're looking at a month at most at this point, and I will have the game. After that, there is no more Madden 15. So I'll try to do what I can along with the other, videos and such that I'm doing on the channel, but definitely pay attention to it, man. And like he said, the last point I'll make before we grab the next call, it is not going to fix the game. It is not going to account for problems that the game has or things that the game doesn't have. It's merely just an attempt to get the best gameplay possible from the game that you have in front of you. That's it. That's all it is. And in my opinion, his rosters have always played better than any stock roster. So there you have it. Anything quick on that, Smitty, before we grab 205?
No, I really don't have anything in addition. I mean, we all know that Neff definitely has been putting it down for the longest, with the rosters and everything. Went through multiple Xboxes and everything, you know what I'm saying? Because it would make the APF would make the system crash doing all that hex editing, before the editor came out. So, but no, man, all I can say is that I'm finished on Madden. I'm up here playing different games. I'm playing, you see me playing the 2K14 and all that because Madden 16's got some good stuff in store. And I mean, it's gonna be undeniable. And you got some guys that are gonna try their best to uphold that deniability, but it is what it is, man. The game they're making the game that we've been wanting. And it's gonna take some time to get it, but it's coming around and it's gonna convince more and more people in terms of what they're doing. So just gotta recognize game, man.
Yep, that's it. So all right, man, let's move on to our good buddy 205. Let's go ahead and bring you in. 205, we got you in live, man. What you got for us tonight?
Pretty good. How y'all guys?
Good, man.
All right. I hit on some few points. I've got to give applause to my man 757. Me and him talked before, back when I was doing my series videos with him on YouTube, and we had a great audio one time that didn't get put up because the audio messed up. But we had a great video talking about the same thing y'all talking about tonight. And I can say this, I don't know if he's listening right now, but I live vicariously through that man because he is like a genius when it comes to giving out the way that things should be. Because we talked about the whole idea of sports science. And I know EA has ESPN, and sports science uses ESPN a lot. And they have all that capture there. And he talked about that with me, and I wished I had that video to have put it out. But like I said, the audio was messed up. But it was perfectly what he was saying. I'm telling you right now, if they would just go and get that ESPN footage or sports sites where you can have all capture, you can have every body type model of all the players, even the ones coming out through the draft and everything that they do, because that would be a perfect way to go with the ratings. And you wouldn't necessarily have to go full boat ratings because they would have the ability set up already there because they captured all of it. And they do it every single year. Also, I would love to see Madden, since they have the NFL Network and everything, I would love to have the list of the NFL top 100 every year at the beginning of the season. That way that we have it in the presentation and it actually pops up in game and it starts talking about the top 100 players and saying how they actually, participated in what they did the year prior. And then that'll actually move into our franchise mode and CFM. And we'll actually be able to keep up with those guys. Are they decreasing, Are they losing steps? Are they backing up? Or they get higher and higher and higher, So that's one thing I would love, and you could push it forward. And also the commentary that you could have, like you was talking about Sim earlier, with the whole idea of having local people come in there. You're right there, and you're right there in Orlando, Florida. You have all these things right there at your disposal. I don't understand why you can't just use them. I mean, if you have, already have contracts with these companies, I don't think it would be an issue to go out there and say, hey, I want to use this. I already have a contract that you're already spending money with you. You should give me this forward. It should be written in the contract to use it that way. And I think that would help with presentation because you would actually have people that invested their time and energy into that team. And you wouldn't feel so like disconnected, if you know what I'm saying, with the audio and everything that they do with the broadcasting and stuff. I think it would be more dynamic. I think it'd be more entertaining, and you would have more of an element of like authenticity to it, if that makes sense. Also, with my last thing, my question would be, I don't know if you had a chance, but I heard people asking you on Twitter, did you ever get a chance to ask anybody from EA about a Boston game for Fight Night? That's one thing that I would love to see, an engine using Fight Night with the UFC engine. I would love to see Fight Night, and I'll just kind of let y'all go with that. Love y'all show, man. I got y'all's back, and y'all have a great one, man. Peace.
Well, yeah, man. We always appreciate your call. And you know what? I actually didn't get a chance. To be honest with you, I actually forgot. But I can find that out. I can always ask devs, with Madden and other connects we have at EA about the fight night. Man, like I tell most people, and if you follow my Twitter when fights are on, you would know I am an extreme boxing fan. And if that ever happens again, they need to bring me on up there and do some game changing on that boxing because I got so many ideas for them, so many gripes I had about fight night. But I'll definitely find out for you, man. And you know how it works. Maybe they'll give us an answer, maybe they won't. Maybe it's something that we can't tell, but I'm going to at least try to find out. As far as everything else, yes. Use it all. And I'll say this real quick and throw it to Smitty before we grab the next call, which is 262. Man, to me, I feel like if you're going to be the only game, right, you got the exclusive NFL license. You have all of these connects that should come along with the NFL. Things like, the Nike and all of these things that the NFL has contracts with in terms of the game should easily, be usable in Madden. I don't see why it wouldn't because this is supposed to be a NFL representation, right? So I feel like 757 said as well, use some other studios. Like you said, use the sports science people to get capture along with the capture that you get. Use more of these things, more of these avenues. And what I was going to say real quick about the new players that come in, maybe now since you're the exclusive game, maybe that's a requirement. Hey guys, once you get drafted, we got to, you got to go here. You got to get your capture. You got to get, a few shots doing this. Show us a few of your signature moves. Nothing serious. Where nobody can get hurt or nothing like that. But show us a pose that you like to do. Like Manziel. When he came in, everybody knew about the money thing, the money pose. Show me that so we can get that in the game. All of this kind of stuff, man, would definitely take the game to the next level as far as authenticity, man. What you think, Smitty?
I fully agree. Like they should have to come in, and make that part of it by default. And you know what? Yeah, this is the other thing too. Like have the rookies, come in and make that contractual because they do have to do a deal with the players union as well. Like, it shouldn't be something where it's like, oh, well, you got to volunteer if you want to do it or not. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm talking about, like, when it comes to, like, rookies and everything, the incoming class, like, they should most definitely get signed. Like, I mean, not get signed, but get the scan done. But in addition to that, though, when you're talking about the sports science guys being in there, that is a very good point. They should bring the sports science people in and help them create the game. I mean, look, you got NBA 2K over the past few years. What they do? They bring in LeBron to figure out what kind of soundtrack. They had Jay-Z as an executive producer. They had Pharrell curating the soundtrack. Now you got Spike Lee. It's a Spike Lee joint. See what I'm saying? So they're able to bring all these other people in. You could bring in John Brinkus. You know what I'm saying? And his team, and use this sports science crew and say, all right, we brung in the sports science crew so we can get the math, the weight, the physics, all that stuff done right. You know what I'm saying? So now don't get me wrong, it may be a multi-year process. It may not be something you can just get done in one shot. But nevertheless, bring those dudes in because they factor in all of that stuff. And use that, have them collaborate with with your physics team, and with have them come out to the mocap session, and hook them up to the equipment and everything, and get that stuff figured out properly. Because while for Madden you don't want players to get injured while doing that, but you have all these rookies and everything. You have rookies. You even had seasoned vets. You had Ray Lewis compare himself to a battering ram. You had him running through a door. You know what I'm saying? So you can do these kind of things and get this kind of data. And like I said, you're not talking about doing nearly as harsh stuff, but I'm saying, like, have these players in a controlled environment and you can get this data replicated properly. And then you have even more authenticity in terms of what you can add to the game. It's just a matter of how you go about implementing it at that point. So, now that was a very great point, though, that he brought up 205 with that. Yeah, they should definitely do that.
Absolutely, man. And hey, I ain't no NFL player, but I would be willing, even if they wanted us to do like some type of general mocap. I mean, like general stuff. Like if you just want to see this guy that weighs this much, what would happen? I would do that. I have no problem with it. You don't have to pay me. None of that. If it's being like to say, oh, I can help with the game, I'll do it. You know what I'm saying? I'm still athletic. You got plenty of people, I'm sure, that are athletes that would be willing to do this stuff. And I think that's the overall theme and point that we're making is utilize your resources, man. You are a giant company with big pockets. And like I said, there's people that are willing to do things for free, i.e., the Game Changer program. We don't get paid, folks.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So there it is. But let's go ahead and grab this next call, man. 262. Looks like you're the last one. Smitty will hit you with the reply. We got you in live, man. What's going on tonight?
Hey, man. What's up? I just want to know, like, about what's Madden, 16 coming up. Can we get like an improvement as far as atmosphere-wise and environment, things like that, where kind of there's obviously a big difference between the Seahawks environment and their, at CenturyLink Field, as far as the fans and everything, and how loud, the crowd is and everything, and how it affects gameplay. Or just games in general in real life. I just like to see a difference between Jacksonville and Seattle as far as the volume and the loudness of the two different crowds. As there's obviously a big difference between the two. So I would just like to see an improvement. Aside from gameplay, just as far as I know they've done a lot as far as presentation wise with the quarterback runouts and everything, and that's cool, but I think that the big thing that, NBA 2K is missing for me is, there have been moments in games where, just as far as just talking games in general, sports games, I think people, think of NBA as being a flawless game. I feel like my biggest issue with that game is the environment and the atmosphere of the crowd and everything. So I was just wondering if, my biggest issue with sports game in general and Madden specifically is, even though they have improved, the crowd in the last couple of years, I would just like to see, an improvement in that area.
Hey, just real quick.
Oh, my bad, man. Hey, let me get you back in. My bad, man. I thought you were done, so I muted you. But we got you back on. Go ahead, man. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. You still there? Hold on. Let me get him.
I guess
262. You still there? I think it's trying to get you in. This computer's crazy. Yeah, I think he's off. My bad, 262, man. If there you go. You in? Yeah, go ahead, man. We cut you off prematurely.
I'm sorry, man. It's all good. I just want to cut because we came in halfway through around 8:30 Central Time. I'm just kind of curious. You don't have to, but can you please touch up again on like the graphics thing from like the pre snapshots that were taken care of, and then the new ones? Like, can you please touch up on that a little bit more?
Yeah, no problem. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
All right, we appreciate you calling. Go ahead, Smitty.
All right. Let's see here. Well, dang, his question kind of had slipped my mind there. What he said before he got cut off?
Yeah, he was talking about environments. Different environments, different crowd noise, and he was saying he's really not satisfied with that across the board. And he mentioned 2K. Like, games don't really differentiate crowd noise. I would assume he also means like the amount of people in the arena for basketball, and like Jacksonville might not be as hype as Seattle and things of that nature. So that's what he was saying. Can we get some improvement on that?
Oh, okay. In terms of that, you know what? I don't know if that would actually happen, because remember, well, you may not recall, but Madden had an idea back then, like I would say like Madden 10 or 11 or something like that, when what they were going to do was they were going to have like the attendance be dynamic. If your team sucks, no one's really going to be there. But what happened was, when you have that happen, obviously you would have crowd noise reduction. But the problem with it was you had you had owners of teams complain about it. So about the idea, because I don't want my team looking like that and everything. I don't want this team has all these people show up, but then my game, my team doesn't have anybody. So that's why they never had that happen. But what I do agree with you on is, like, it would be awesome to see it where they would have the crowd noise differ between different teams, even though they have a packed house in every single game. But it would just be I don't know. It may be a little bit hard to try and depict that, because, you know what I'm saying? Like, how you going to have a full house at every stadium, but yet one crowd is louder than another crowd? You see what I'm saying? So it makes it kind of hard to distinguish the two, because if I go to a live arena, it's live. Like, I've been out of town and went to games and stuff like that where it's been live. And I mean, it was live just like it would be if I was at home. So, and that's with like, a nearly to capacity crowd. So, like, if anything, have the signage and everything, have the appeal and have the overall crowd sound, but they're not going to have it where, the crowd noise is going to essentially be low because it's the Jaguars in comparison to the the Seahawks. So that may not be answering the question to the best ability, but that's what I'm saying. Like, that's the downside of it. Is like, if they could have dynamic attendance, oh yeah, that would be outstanding to have the decibel levels be drastically different. That I would love that. But then now the other aspect that you were talking about with the graphical fidelity, from, like we had said, Madden 16, from what we see in the screenshots looked a whole lot better than what I had played. All I got to see was a preview of what the visuals would look like. So when I saw the visuals in the game, they did look updated to an extent from 15, but they were raw. It was very raw because of the build I was on at that point. So it was very raw in terms of how it looked. Those screenshots that we saw, like the ones that are put out today, it didn't look nothing like that when I played it. So those visuals look extremely clean. So I'm just curious how it'll look in game, but like the Sim can, elaborate in terms of, rehash from what he said about the E3 experience, how it looked there.
Yeah, man, and we got one more caller, so let me be quick.
Oh,
it definitely looked better than it looked closer to what we're seeing in those screenshots. And just to explain real quick how presentation usually works. Presentation and artwork is usually the last thing to come in. At EA, when the game is being built, everyone has built a game that they're working on, and it all comes together. As I know, a lot of you guys would assume that's how it works. What I saw on E3 was much better than what me and Smitty saw early in the year. Much better. I mean, I'm seeing faces that weren't there. Guys it's looking very crisp. As far as lighting and things like that, huge upgrade. What you're seeing right now is the latest edition of presentation. And just to prove my point, what we saw from Madden 15 around the same time didn't look like what came out in August. So that's just giving you proof right there. Like, believe me, those screenshots are taken from what they actually have in game. So yeah, the game looks like that because it was looking mighty close to that at E3, in my opinion. And like they said, the guy from OS, marveled over the graphics. So there you have it. But we'll definitely see how it turns out. So let's go ahead and grab this one other caller. There's area code 410. Let's go ahead and get you in. Thanks for calling, man. We got you on live. What's going on?
What's happening, man? This is Dez at You Heard Me Dog on Twitter and DMob79.
Oh, yeah. What's going on, man?
Man, hey, man, big fan of everything y'all do, man. Appreciate this, man. Real quick before time runs out, tweeted about the ratings earlier. One thing I like to see is if we could have the elite players being really elite, substituting for having player-specific animations. I think that's just not something that's practical with 30 teams with 53 players on it. I just don't think that you can really do that. I'd like for them to bring the ball carrier styles back from 08. But if we could get the linebackers, like the elite linebackers, Luke Kuechly has 80-something agility. You know what I'm saying? Wagner has 80-something agility. CJ Mosley has 80-something agility. But, Brian Cushing, agility should be in the 60s. Acceleration should be in the 70s. This way you don't have, dudes, even if they fixed it to where everybody can't zoom off the block real quick and just cut you off no matter what their speed is, no matter what running back you have. Any corner could tackle any running back in 15. And it doesn't look like that's happening this year. When I see Rashad Jennings busting through all these people, I'm like, what? Rashad Jennings is doing all this work? And I'm sitting up here, I have to give shouts, unfortunately, to the Steelers as I am a diehard Ravens fan, but I'm not looking forward to playing Le'Veon Bell 2 times a week in my franchise. That's not going to be a fun day. You know what I'm saying? And real quick, man, I would just like to see, I'm going to call earlier at some point if I get a chance to, man, because I really want to pick you guys' brains a little bit more. I'm more of a CFM player. And, you know what I'm saying, with all the BS draft classes that I've seen over the years, like I think Madden 13, the draft classes needs to be the blueprint for how they do the player ratings, because you would not have, running backs with 65 carrying, and you wouldn't have every middle linebacker with 92 speed. And I feel like those types of ratings are what they do on the red games. And I don't play mud at all. I refuse to cower to that scam. But
in play now and the CFM, if you have the ratings consistently right, the experience will be so much better, and it will be so much more of a sacrifice when you build your team and you say, all right, I want to sign Des Bryant to a 5-year, $70 million contract, so that means I can't sign that one other lineman that I want to keep. You know what I'm saying? If we can get it to the point where the game protects itself by not letting you have so many people be 99s in the game, period, then all things considered, I think the experience will be that much nicer. I'm too excited for Madden 16. Appreciate y'all having me on.
Definitely, man. We appreciate you calling, man. And
yeah,
definitely appreciate it. And yeah, man. Hey, a couple of things I'll comment on real quick, like you said about the guys getting off. I can't wait to see, how it actually looks after I spend my own time with the game. And what I mean by that is, when we test it out, we go to EA, we're seeing it in various times, various different builds. And that's why I was glad I was able to get that interview, man, with Rex. And, I'm sure you've seen it, but so he can explain to you guys some of the stuff that I hear. And like he said, they have the organic tackles now, and they have, tackles that when it goes organic, weight and momentum is supposed to matter. So I want to see, like you said, of course I'm going to be biased to Le'Veon, but I want to see that. I want to see Le'Veon Bell getting busy versus another guy might not have that much success. And even to give shout-outs to the Ravens, I would love to, like you said, with the signature animations and signature styles and all that, I want to see a dude like Justin Forsett. You don't see him in Madden. You cannot differentiate him from another back. You know what I'm saying? So those are the type of things. I want the players, just to be real quick here, I want the player ratings and all that and abilities and all that to have it to where they really match a scheme. You know what I mean? Like Forsett came to the Ravens last year and got off. You know what I'm saying? Probably had his best season in his whole career because of the scheme. He was a perfect fit for them at the time. Truth be told, because of his stature and all that, he's pretty much like a Ray Rice as far as how he fit in the scheme. But anyway, before I throw it to Smitty, yeah, I'm with you with all of that. And, time will tell. I'm going to be looking for all of those things that, Rex has told us and the other devs has told us, and how much of this matters, how much of this doesn't matter, and et cetera, et cetera. So we got to see it, man. And, like Smitty said as well, I think 16 is that game that is finally the game that I believe we'll all be able to say, okay, they can build on this here. So, absolutely. So what you got on that, Smitty? I know you got some comments on some of the things he said.
Yeah, basically, I feel that Madden 16, like, I know that he'll be pleased. I thoroughly feel there are going to be some very pleased people, and it's nice to say it with some kind of confidence. There are going to be some pleased people that are going to play this game, and I'm not just saying in general. I'm talking about people that wouldn't normally be pleased with what's happening. They will like what goes on in the game. I know guys like 757 will appreciate it, especially my man's here that called in. He'll definitely like what's going on in the game here, and I really don't know. I really don't know how to tell it, because look, I've never, like I said, and I've said this before. I've never seen somebody play a game of Madden and drop the sticks off of a tackle. And when I saw that tackle happen, I'm telling you, it was like backbreaker to us, because that didn't happen again. That's the whole thing. It didn't even happen again. All the unique stuff that between me, Sim, and AZ that we saw the next time we played, and even from looking at other people that were playing, they didn't even have it happen. It was like that was unique to that moment right there in the game when Sim played it, and I didn't even have nothing like that. There are some things that are happening in this game that people are going to just really, you're going to have to pay attention to. You know what I'm saying? And this is why I'm saying, I just want to say real quick, the value of live streaming games and showing full games is going to be very vital here, because when you break it down to a little sample size and showcase a game like that, you're doing the game injustice. And I'm saying period for any of these games, because there was another E3 gameplay footage that was put out a few days ago, and NYK pointed out something here that usually would get swept under the rug. The guy that was playing kept throwing deep balls, and he went, like, from what he said, from like the first half stat, he went 1 for 7 on throwing deep balls because he was just watching the game. 1 for 7, and he at least threw one. He may have threw 2 interceptions off of doing that. And that goes to show you're seeing the quality of the game. You're seeing quality gameplay happen. And he even talked about some of the behaviors that the safeties were doing based upon what the offense was giving them. See, it's like you're noticing these things happen. And 757 peep gameplay stuff without even having to read that deep dive article. How the defender was latched onto the ball carrier and his legs still kept churning through the whole process and everything and kept going. He peeped all that. And that's what I'm saying. There are things that you're going to see. You're not going to see unless you play the game thoroughly. And you're not going to be able to notice it unless you actually watch full games and see stuff happen. Of course, you're always going to see something that you don't like happen in these games. But we just can't act like these games are supposed to come out just picture perfect and have zero problems. It's going to have some problems. But how much are those problems going to outweigh the good in the game? Like, realistically, how is it going to show? You know what I'm saying? And like I said, you're only going to see that by playing the game in full and seeing it in full versus just seeing one clip and saying, OMG, this is how the whole game is going to be. So I just want to put that out.
And don't worry, we're going to have the live streams for you when we're able to do so. And I see that there was 2 other calls that came in late, man. I apologize, guys. We're not going to have time to get to them. I mean, we only got literally 2.5 minutes. And last 2 minutes here, say hi to Azulak, man. He's out of class. I see he's on, but as you can see, we're not even giving him enough time to talk. So I'm just glad he's able to say what's up.
Yeah, man. What happened was we were doing peer editing, and we ran over a little bit. That's where your classmates, for those of y'all who don't know, you exchange papers, and there's a classroom management plan I've been working on. For those who don't know, I'll be teaching. So she gave me hers, and I gave her mine, and we were working together. So that's why I ran a little bit long. I usually am able to call in about 8:30, so next Thursday, hopefully, I can call in about 8:30. So that was me. I got in late today.
Yeah, man, that's all right, man. You know, you're doing what you got to do, so ain't nobody mad at that.
Yeah, I know. Great show on what I did here when I had the break as well. I know you had some great topics from the community. The community came through, and keep doing that for, those guys out there who are contributing to the show. That's a way to build community and stick together with this. And I think hopefully, we're only about a month away from Madden 16 dropping it. And like Smitty was saying, some people are going to be pleased, man. I think more than we are anticipating, people should be pleased with this game. So.
Absolutely, man. We're at the 60-minute mark. 60-second mark. Just to tell you guys, I mean, listen, read between the lines, man. And I think most of you guys are intelligent enough to know we're not telling you that this game will be perfect. We're not telling you that this game will have stuff that you won't like. We're just telling you that if you play the game, take time and play it, you're going to see football, and you're going to appreciate that the things that we have been asking for are starting to be implemented. You're definitely going to see it. If you don't want to see it, hey, you know how that goes. But 20 seconds left. Smitty, Azul, y'all got any quick last words?
We appreciate the support, man. People still continuing to give topics for the show. And y'all two guys hold it down.
Yeah, man, we definitely appreciate everything from you guys that are listening. And we'll be back at you guys next week for another show, man. Thanks for making this one a successful one. All right, we'll be back. Peace.
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 Once again, guys, thanks for coming by. And if you want to interact with me live, head on over to Sim Standard Radio every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, along with Smitty and Azure Effect. The call-in number for the show is down in the description. Now, of course, for more content, go ahead and click the link above. And before you go, don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. All right, guys. Until next time, lights out.